I am thrilled to give a shout out to District Attorney Craig Stedman, who is here with us. Yeah. Oh, that's all I had to say. Now everybody's coming up the stairs. It is for his leadership and his collaboration after the Libre's Law case. He has worked closely with us on House Bill 1238. He enacted a law enforcement training on animal cruelty crimes for 150 of his law enforcement officers. Yeah, and he implemented. Wait, no, Representative Stephens, we need you and Senator Alloway to stay. I'm sorry, and Ryan Bizzarro. Todd Stephens, Ryan Bizzarro, and Rich Alloway all need to stay, and they should be standing up here too, so I don't feel so lonely. All right, gentlemen. And one last thing I wanted to say about District Attorney Stedman is that he also implemented an animal cruelty tip line to ensure a safe community for animals and citizens. Hand it over to you.
All right. Thank you. Good afternoon. I know we got some important awards and things to go on here. I just want to take a couple minutes to make a few important remarks on such an important subject. I want to thank the senators, the representatives that worked on this bill, and it's a great honor to be here, and it's great to see Libre. The last time, compared to what condition I saw Libre in the summer, truly night and day. And for me, I dedicated my career, 25 years in the district attorney's office, of doing the right thing for the right reason. And when I saw the condition of Libre, and I knew that the individual responsible for looking into that case had failed to file charges, took personal control of that case, got the state police involved, got charges filed, and the abuser convicted because it was the right thing to do. But, there's a larger issue going on because, unfortunately, Libre's not alone. And there are countless other animals who don't have a voice in our halls of justice that can't speak for themselves in Pennsylvania that are suffering abuse. Our justice system fails them on a couple different levels. One, because the laws are inadequate to protect them in their time of need when they can't speak. And also in execution in many cases. Because police officers and Humane Society police officers are not given a lot of training in the area of animal cruelty, and stuff is absolutely missed at one stage or another. So I became determined to do everything I could do within my control at that point in time to make a difference. The first thing I could do was increase professionalism of animal cruelty cases and how they're investigated in my county. Because the way it was in the past was it was more sort of whoever happened to get the call, maybe you'd get an officer who knew something about it, maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you'd get a Humane Society officer that was interested in dogs or interested in horses, but maybe they weren't. It was very, very random. So we needed to make sure that the right people were being prosecuted with the right laws, and the people that shouldn't be prosecuted were not being prosecuted. So in other words, fairness. It's what our justice system is about, is getting it right, getting it done right the first time, and being fair to everybody, for the animals, for the suspects, the individuals, and for our system as a whole. So I changed the whole way we worked. Instead of sort of a random call, I assigned one detective that gets she's the coordinator for our animal cruelty cases throughout the entire county. That doesn't mean she handles all of them. She can't handle all of them. But she's the coordinator. We have a funnel, an individual who's experienced in animal cruelty cases. She coordinates. If it's the police that are going to handle it, she works with them. If it's going to be a Humane Society police officer, she's going to work with them. But we needed to take control of an area that really had no control, at least in my county before. The second thing I did, and Kristen mentioned it, was training. Police officers wear so many hats. We ask them to do so many different things every year, more and more on their plate, but we don't provide them with really any training in animal cruelty. And it's a specialized area of prosecution and investigation. So I felt the least we could do, if I'm putting the increased burden on police officers to handle these cases, because they should be handled correctly, we needed to give them a foundation of training, of awareness of what to look for, how to recognize cruelty, how to properly investigate it, to make sure the convictions are successful and they matter. And that's where the HSUS stepped in. They partnered with us. They didn't just partner with us. They came into Lancaster and provided training free to our county to 150 officers over 4 days, totally devoted to animal cruelty. and they donated their time. It's the first time it's been done in the entire state of Pennsylvania. And listen, police officers are a tough audience. They're not shy about letting me know when I've asked them to do something they don't agree with. They came out with glowing reviews and glowing remarks for the HSUS and the excellent training that they provided. So thank you, Kristen, and your whole organization for what you've done. One of the other things that they did, and I think it opened the eyes of a lot of police officers, was they stressed the correlation between animal abuse and violence for people, because there is a correlation. And a lot of us in law enforcement really weren't aware of that. And I know a lot of our police officers weren't aware of that. So, you know, one of the takeaways from that, one of the takeaways for me at that point, and one of the takeaways for today, I think, is the importance to recognize by protecting animals, whether you believe in fighting for animals or not, and protecting animals, you are protecting your community and all the people in it. Right, that's right. So the other thing we did was, you know, this day and age, it's so easy to everybody uses their phones. It's the way everyone communicates with each other. We needed to make sure we were getting all the information. And we created tip lines for electronic and for phone, just for animal cruelty. We hadn't had that before. It's making a difference. We're getting calls, we're getting tips, and we're better off, and the animals are better off because of it. So I have done what I could in Lancaster County within my control, as far as training, as far as increased professionalism for cruelty, the tip line, and what we can do as far as getting the information. But there were two other things that I asked for. And I had a press conference about Libre announcing the charges in August. There were two things I asked for. I asked for a change in the law, in particular harsher penalties for those who would commit the extreme acts of cruelty and the repeat offenders. And I asked for it, you know, on a moral level and on a resource level. Because again, the right thing to do, to have real consequences to people that would commit cruelty against these innocent animals. But also on a resource level, because there were cases that I've had to handle where, depending on the animal and whether you're the owner or not, you could beat an animal to death and face nothing more than a summary violation. Nothing more than a summary violation. Again, wrong on a moral level, but on a resource level, for me to put law enforcement assets into it and the person to come out with a $100 fine, somebody could write a check, just wasn't right. So I asked for Harrisburg to have harsher penalties. The other thing I asked for was the standards involving Humane Society police officers. Right now, there's no input from a district attorney as far as a background for that person. And in Libre's case, the Humane Society police officer failed. For whatever reason, they failed. And without that input, we're giving these officers the right to go on people's properties, to arrest people, to charge them with crimes. We need to know that they're being fair to everyone, and they're doing, again, the right thing for the right reason. So I asked for the ability to have a law passed that the DAs can at least do a background check and provide input to the judge. Again, common sense. Just as the increased penalties, common sense changes. So, you know, I've been a DA for a long time, and seen Harrisburg and how it operates for a long time, and I will be honest with you, I was skeptical that anything would change. Absolutely skeptical. Even though I said it, I had said some of those things before. I know how Harrisburg works or doesn't work in all too often, too many cases, and I just didn't think anything was happening in the back of my mind. But then, you know what? The House Bill 1238 that we have now, things are changing. I was wrong. I was glad I was wrong. Harrisburg has taken control. Representative Stephens, Senator Always, and all the legislators that have worked on this, Representative Griner, for a long time behind the scenes, and you have no idea how many hours. I have no idea how many hours. I just know from my point, the input, the back and forth, the different interests, they are doing something. So what have we got? We've got a bill that increases penalties for those who would commit animal cruelty. It's common sense. It parallels sort of what we do with people as far as the gradings, as far as the severity, as far as dealing with repeat offenders. It has to pass because it makes sense and it'll make a difference. And they also, believe it or not, I asked for two things. This bill does both. It gives you the background checks and the ability for the DA to have input into who is appointed as a Humane Society police officer. Still a judge's decision, but we actually, for the first time, will have the ability to, imagine that, look at the background of people who are giving a badge who can arrest people and having input to the court to do that. Unbelievable. So I truly want to thank Representative Stephens, who I have bugged countlessly for numerous, even when he was on the floor trying to get it passed, I think it was in November, was trying to text him this, that, and the other thing, always been receptive. What a leader in this field, and so fortunate to have him working on this. And Senator Alloway, who's really taken the bull by the horns, and all the legislators who support this, thank you. Thanks to the HSUS, from their CEO to Kristen, to Chris Brosan, who came in and did the training, and my friend Tara Lawler, who isn't here, but I've worked with her on these cases for almost a decade now, and she's the link that put us to the HSUS and my office together, and I'd be remiss in not mentioning her. I'd also hear about this for a long time if I didn't mention my wife and my children and the difference they've made in opening up my house to creatures from land, sea, and air, and reminding me about the importance of this fight and of this cause. And thank all of you, the advocates who have worked so long, so hard, in such an uphill battle in trying to make a difference and for meaningful laws for those animals that would suffer abuse. Your day is almost here. I never thought we'd be this far. This bill, again, makes sense, and thank you so much. Most of all, I really want to say, as DA, I see a lot of bad things, a lot of horrible things, a lot of things I'd like to forget. A lot of times we're able to hold that person accountable, but in many ways, I don't feel like a lot of good comes from something bad. Well, today's different. For what Libre suffered for, he's never going to know the good that's come from that, but there is good coming from that bad that day and that whole case, and we're here because of it. So for all the unfortunately, the future Libres we're going to have out there who would suffer at the hands of somebody who would abuse them, for those creatures who can't speak for themselves, except for over here, with this bill, not only will you have a voice in the halls of justice, but it'll be stronger than ever before in the history of Pennsylvania. So I'll do all that I can to make sure that this bill passes. We have to make it pass. And thank you to everybody here, and thanks again for the opportunity, and thanks for not raining while I was talking. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And that little dog, District Attorney Stedman had mentioned the link to human violence, and Ruth from the Anna Shelter is an amazing executive director in Erie. And Biscuit was actually the victim of a domestic violence dispute and had 13 cigarette burns put out on him, right? And anything else, Ruth, was the jaw was fractured jaw. And so the link is real, and thank you for taking care of him and all you do for animals in Erie. You are amazing, and we need you up here, actually. So we are going to start with our awards presentation, and I need, if you don't mind, the Chambersburg area senior high school students, if you could come up here. Is Kira in the audience from Representative Todd Stephens' district? Okay. And anyone from the Erie area, Jessica Carlson, Ruth, come on up. And yeah, amazing. So through a determined advocacy campaign waged over the course of last year, we established definitive inroads with the Pennsylvania General Assembly. And that was led by our first recipient of our Libre's Hero of the Year Award. And in the words of this inspiring legislator, to help the thousands of Libres out there who don't have as happy of an ending. Senator Richard Alloway, thank you for your exemplary stand for animals.
Thank you so much.
You're
oh my gosh.
welcome.
I didn't know who these kids were.
Yeah, I know. These are your students. They came here for you.
Hi.
I will let you say a few words.
Wow, this is a shock. I didn't know why. They kept saying there's kids here that want to see you. I'm like, okay, why is it so important? I didn't know they were from Chambersburg. Thank you all for coming up. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you all. I'm going to be very brief. This day is about the dogs and the animals, our pets. We know that you all have given such great voice to them, have never given up. I absolutely want to thank our friends in the House of Representatives who, when this bill came up short last year, they didn't walk away from the table. They stayed there. They kept working. Todd Stephens picked this thing up. Representative Bizzarro got in there and started working together and fighting to get a bill that we can get through the House. I feel very good in the Senate about where we're at. We're waiting to get the bill from the House. I think it'll be a pretty easy lift in the Senate. We'll have it on the governor's desk, and we can all celebrate. And I just want to say thank you, and Libre is my hero. Thank you, guys. It's great seeing all of you.
Thank you again. Congratulations. And I also have to mention that we have another humane senator that joined us. Senator Andy Dinniman also introduced a bill to help protect people and pets, the victims of domestic violence disputes, as well as a Senate version of the Keeping Pets Out of Hot Car bill. Thank you. Our second award, working together as agencies and dedicated volunteers, we did achieve tangible victories last session. Among them included the Animal Fighting Paraphernalia Bill, introduced by this next representative, who is now introducing the most comprehensive animal protection bill in the state of Pennsylvania, House Bill 1238. Congratulations, Representative Todd Stephens, on your humane leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Quite a surprise.
Oh.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
All right. So, well, you're going to say a few words. They want to hear from you.
Sure. Look, we've still got a lot of work ahead, and your presence here today is a huge, huge step in the right direction. I'm hoping that 48 hours from now, we're going to be celebrating the bill leaving the House of Representatives and moving over to the Senate, where you heard from my good friend Senator Alloway, where we're going to get this thing done. So first and foremost, thanks to all of you for taking time out of your schedules, out of your lives, being away from your families, coming up here today to advocate on behalf of our animals across Pennsylvania. Special thanks to Senator Alloway and Representative Bizzarro, who really, last session worked tirelessly, and we all made that heavy push at the end to try to get a lot of this bill, a lot of what's in this bill this session across the finish line. Frankly, I joked with Senator Alloway last session that it would be a little easier because there'd be less in my bill if we got a bunch of that stuff done at the end of last session. But it didn't happen, so we're going to keep pushing forward. And as I said, with your help and the support of my colleagues in the House and in the Senate, we're going to get this thing done in the next 48 hours, get this out of the House, and get this over to the Senate. Thank you all so much.
Thank you again. Thank you. Okay, even in my heels, I'm going to have to bring this down a little bit. So our next award goes to the legislator who initially introduced House Bill 869 and drove effective change for animals. Not only did this recipient take on state measures, but he's also connected us with local city government to implement a puppy mill ordinance within Erie City. Our next legislator, Representative Ryan Bizzarro, the Humane Legislator of the Year.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I know that's so happy. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Wow. Thank you all so much. I greatly appreciate it. This day is about you, and this day is about the animals. We cannot do this without you. Our jobs are a lot easier with your support and your advocacy, so keep pushing. Keep being the voice for the voiceless. We need you out there advocating for us. Let's lobby your legislators today, and let's urge them to pass House Bill 1238. It's this comprehensive bill. Doesn't matter whose name's on the bill. We have to get this across the finish line in order to get the job done and be the voice for the voiceless. So thank you so much for the award. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
And your district representatives are here if you want to get your award. Oh, wait, I gave you Don White. Oh, wait. Shh. Oh, gosh, she doesn't know that yet. Oh, that's because I
That's
left
right.
your award. Okay.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So in closing, Humane Lobby Day is the most important advocacy day of the year. I can't emphasize this acknowledgement enough. We are so grateful for your tireless commitment and the selfless ways that you give of your personal time traveling here to the state capitol, the action alerts that you respond to, and the phone calls that you put into legislators. from bake sales to the Capitol steps and everything in between, contributes to moving our advocacy forward together. I want to genuinely express my personal gratitude for all you do on behalf of myself and the Humane Society of the United States. Without you, the Libres and the Cordelias would remain voiceless. And because of you, today has been a powerful event that has heightened awareness, garnered support, and generated momentum to help push legislation through to becoming law.